Now, if you don't know me, this is my humor, and it's as good as it's going to get, okay? And I tell my students at TCC, look, it's going to be much better for you if you laugh at my jokes, because it's going to make me feel better, and it's going to make things go better for you. So try to laugh at jokes when we can. My name is Randy Miller, and I am the executive pastor here at Eagles View Church. And we are thrilled to be able to bring this particular series that we are going to be beginning. Let me tell you how this started for us. We began to have some of our, what we call residents. Residents are people who feel called to ministry, but are looking and being trained for that ministry. In this room tonight, we have those residents of Eagles View Church, and that is Mr. Zach Brown right over here, who is our newest resident, who is going to be helping me with all of our EVC Go opportunities. And so I'm excited to have Zach as a part of that. Ashley Kaufman is in the back running slides tonight. There's Ashley. She is our worship ministry resident. And then Rachel Remmers is right here, and she is our children's ministry next gen resident. And so we began this as an idea several years ago. I admitted that I had been an idiot. Now, some of you already knew this, and this was no shock to you. But we began to ask the question of, why are we not seeing more church planters being raised up? Are you translating, Arbea? Okay, you are. Thank you. I'll get to my friends here from Honduras in just a second. She's translating for her mom and dad. But we began to ask the question, why are we not seeing more church planters risen up from within our own body? Most of the church planters that we support come to us from other places and other churches that have felt a call to ministry and been developed, and then try to find a sponsoring church and link up with us. So most of what we were doing, we're going out and finding church planters and then beginning to help train them and send them out and to help sponsor their churches. We began to ask the question, why are we not seeing more of that raised up? And I had just this aha moment, which was my idiot moment, is what I'm calling it, is because I had great experience in my call to ministry. Shauna, your mother's right over there if you want to go over there, but there you go. If you don't, that's okay. But I was an intern. I was a student ministry intern at a Baptist church that I grew up in for 2 summers. And the experience that I learned and the things that I learned were invaluable. I mean, it was just thrown into ministry, didn't know what I was doing, trying to figure it out, and then had some other men and women come around me and began to help me learn and experience that. Bart Howe began ministry as an internship. Daniel Vaughn began ministry as an internship. And I went, we're stupid. Why aren't we doing internships and residencies? So we do internships with some of our high school students that are sensing that they might have a call to ministry. Internships are unpaid. We do residencies because they are paid part-time, but these are people who have definitively been called into ministry. And so we began to ask the question, would it be possible for us to provide some elements of their education while they're here? So the courses and classes that we are developing are something that we are actually attempting to link up with an accredited institution and have these count for college credit. This one does not. I'm sorry. We do not have that linkage yet, but we are working on that so that we have some of these courses. Now, they were developed with these residents in mind, but these are courses that are going to be courses that we do that are available for the whole church. They would be things that I would think many people will be very interested in doing. So with that being said, we thought about some of the ones that we would want to do, and this was not exactly one of the ones that I thought that we would do immediately. However, my life group, I lead a life group on Wednesday nights, and some of my life group members are here. They wanted to hear some of the things that I teach at Tarrant County College, which I've done since 2010. So I began to do a couple of sessions with my life group, And then as other people found out about it, said, hey, I'd love to take this. I'd love to find out more about this. Ended up doing with our senior ministry education course and taught one or two of these religions with them. They really seem to enjoy it as well. So one of the reasons why we're doing this one is because it helps us understand the religions that are all around us. So I'm not teaching you the same things that I do in my course, because there's about 7 or 8 additional world religions that I teach in the course that we're not going to be teaching in this. Many of those are things like Taoism, Shinto, Confucianism, Jainism. Now, you may have heard of some of those, but some of those are Eastern religions that quite honestly are more viewed as philosophies than they are religions. They were developed and started often as religions, but they've worked themselves into ways of thinking and more of a philosophy of life. But we still teach them as religions. But how many of you know somebody who practices Confucianism? Now, do not raise your hand, Derek Ian, if you do. But other than Derek Ian, does anybody know anybody that practices Confucianism? No. How about Shinto? Where do you think Shinto is developed? Does somebody know? Japan. It is exclusively on the island of Japan. It's exclusively practiced on the island of Japan. It certainly exists elsewhere. Taoism, also more of a Chinese-based religion. Now, all of these religions have some focus and relationship to Hinduism. And we'll talk about that more as we get into Hinduism as well. But we want to look at religions that are right around us. And the reason we're going to do it that way is because I'm adding a significant portion that I don't teach in my class on a secular campus. And that is, how do we use our faith to engage these religions? Now, what I'm not talking about is how do we find needle points where we can bash somebody over the head over what they believe. That is not what I'm talking about. Everything I'm going to be talking with you about is all in the understanding of relationships and how relationships actually, how we can build a relationship because of something that we discover about Hinduism. What is something that a question that I might ask about Hinduism that might lead an opportunity to develop a relationship with someone? And what would be the first thing I would talk about my faith if I'm coming into contact with somebody with Hinduism? So those are the kind of things that we want to talk about with this. Now, with that being said, there's a few things on your table that we're going to use tonight, and I'll tell you about that. So first of all, there are pens there if you want to take notes. But here's what I'm going to tell you that we're going to do. We're going to send you out a PDF of what we're going to talk about before you get here. If you want to print it off and bring those notes with you, if you want to bring your computer and have those up, you can do that. So we'll send you a PDF of the notes. I did not do that tonight because as I went to our Planning Center app, I've got some people in the room who may be able to help me with this, but on the email opportunity that I've emailed you a couple of times, just excited about you being here tonight, it does not give me an opportunity to link an attachment to that. So we're going to find a way to get this as a group list and send you out the PDFs prior to coming. So you can take those notes, you can write on those however you want to. But tonight, if you have a notebook, if you want to use the back of the flyer that I gave you, then great. We'd love for you to take notes as we do this tonight. Now, in front of you, you also have, and it's on this table if you haven't gotten one, is our schedule. Because we are meeting in this room, it is also the opportunity for our worship team sometimes to practice on Thursday nights. And so we're taking a space away that sometimes they utilize. They specifically utilize it on nights that we are doing choir for the next Sunday. And so we are going to not have our class on 3 nights over this semester. And those are noted on that particular flyer. So there are going to be 3 nights. Now, one of them happens to coincide with the birth of my second grandson, okay? So now, if she has this child before September the 17th, which is her due date, then all bets are off as to whether I'm here or not, okay? But her due date is September 17th, and that coincided, or actually the choir moved it so that it would coincide with that date. So that's one of the dates. We have 2 Thursday nights in October, and other than that, we should be good. So what that leaves us is 12 opportunities to have our class. Now that may seem like a lot to you. Trust me, with the amount of material that I would like to give you, it's going to be rough to do it in 12, okay? So we're going to talk about that a little bit. So we're going to get to know each other just a little bit. Now, here's the deal. I've got people in my life group that may or may not come because they heard I was going to have some table discussion, okay? They are sorry individuals, okay? And I will, I'm going to say, Danielle Farr, if you are watching this or you watch this later, I'm talking about you. So I want you to relax. Your table discussion, when we have it, is going to be a very topical thing that we are talking about that I want you to get to know each other. Now, one of the main reasons I'm doing that is brain research is very specific in that you can handle enough information for about 15 minutes and then your brain shuts off for the ability to be able to do any more than that without a reset. Terry Phillips, 4 minutes, okay? That's what we do. This is my good friend Terry back here, and I'm going to mention him in just a second, but raise your hand, Terry. So he will be the brunt of a lot of my jokes because I know he loves me, okay? And it won't affect his view of me. So we're going to do some of those things at our tables, but I really want you to have an opportunity to get to know each other in this process as well, and for me to get to know you as well. How many of you, by show of hands, you are in an active life group here at EVC? Okay, great. One of the things that's one of my objectives is to get you around people who might not be in a life group. Now, there are 2 things that might happen with that. One, you might form a life group. Don't be scared. I'm not going to tell you who's the leader of that life group until the last class, okay? So, no, but other things would be that you might get to know people and be invited and be able to go to a life group. It is the lifeblood of everything that we do at EVC. These courses are not to replace life groups. That's not what this is about. I'm going to teach this course and I'm going to be in my life group. So I want to emulate what I would expect and hope that you might do as well. But we want you to be in relationships with people. I think personally, Pastor Bart talked about spiritual gifts the other day. I used to love spiritual gift assessments, okay? I don't anymore. Because I think your brain can you can answer the questions on a test the way that the gift that you want to have, okay? Okay? People are manipulative. I don't know if you know that or not, but they are, all right? So, but I think the best way for you to discover your spiritual gift and use it is within a life group of people who get to know you and get to see the things that you're naturally gifted at and affirm you in those things. So that's one thing that a life group does among many other things as far as providing care, providing a place for prayer, discipleship, fellowship, Bible study. It's a great place to do that. So I would like to use this as an opportunity over these 12 weeks that we're going to be together for you to begin to form some relationships that you might want to jump in on a life group with some others. Some of you don't go to EVC, and I'm so glad that you are here tonight as well. We want to welcome you. And don't judge everything about EVC from what you hear from me, okay? So don't judge us all by that particular cover. So those are some of the things that we're going to be talking about and doing. So tonight, we're going to get started. We're going to kind of do an overview of why we might want to teach this and why it's going to be helpful. So that's what I've already begun to try to do. Our next course that we plan to offer, and that's the reason I mentioned Terry Phillips, because Terry and I are working to develop some of these. Terry was a master's level student at Dallas Baptist University and has also taught these types of courses in other churches. And so he and I are developing this. But we are very excited to announce what our next one is going to be in the spring. And we thought it was going to be a doctrinal class, but as he and I began to meet about doctrine, we said we can't do doctrine if we don't do church history first. So in the spring, our course is going to be Church History 1, and then we will follow it up next fall with Church History 2, and then we will likely go into some doctrinal issues. Here's the reason. I was talking with Zach earlier today. We began to talk about how do we do doctrine about why we should study God's Word if we don't know how we got the Bible that we have. And so we just began to talk about that. So we think church history and a good understanding of church history is going to really help us to get to that point, which is one of the reasons why we're starting with world religions. Because how to engage people, we're going to talk about theological, doctrinal issues as we go through other world religions to try to discern how is our faith different than this one. Now, this is not necessarily something that I would talk about at Tarrant County College, but it is something that we want to talk about here, and an opportunity for us to see how some of those things begin to develop is how can we not only engage in other faith, but what makes Hinduism different than what I believe? What makes Buddhism different than what I believe? Did you know that Buddhism, there are two forms? And there is one form that sees Buddha as a god, and there's another form that is totally atheistic. That Buddha is just another good teacher who teaches good things, but that form of Buddhism, which is called Theravada Buddhism, is totally atheistic. It has no view, no need, and doesn't want a God. And yet the other form of Buddhism sees Buddha as a deity. Well, if you don't know which particular form of Buddhism is practiced, right down here at our Laotian Buddhist monastery that is right here in our community, you may not know how to ask the questions or how to entertain a relationship with someone that's Laotian Buddhist that might be your neighbor. And so one of the things we want to do is simply give us a base and a foundation of an educational understanding of some of these religions. Now, I'm going to tell you, we're going to be at a 30,000 foot level. There's a lot of deeper things about each one of these religions that we could go into. But we're going to talk about their founders. We're going to talk about if there is a founder, of which Hinduism, we don't know that there is one. We don't think there is. What are their belief systems? And then what are their holidays? Now, why in the world are we studying their holidays? Well, maybe the best religion, one that we are going to study, Judaism, uses their holidays to teach their faith to their children. What are our major holidays in Christianity? They are, December is, which is the celebration of the, don't say pagan religion, okay? I know, I get you. I know you're out there. I know, okay. But the birth of Christ. And we should be using the understanding of Christmas to help understand why Jesus is the best gift, the first gift of Christmas, right? We've gotten away from that, but that's what the holiday was designed to do. Our other major holiday on the Christian calendar is Easter. Easter is not about Easter bunnies and eggs. It is about the resurrection of Christ. And we should be using these major holidays to help teach and involve our children to know what their faith is. And Judaism does that likely better than any other faith. Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, the highest holiday in Judaism, talks about the atonement. Well, what can we understand about the atonement and what it actually means for our Christian faith? So these are the types of things that we'll be looking at as we look at holidays. Holidays are very important in these religions because they are going to help us understand how they teach their faith to children at that point. Now, I'm already seeing some glassy eyes and yawns today. All right, so we're going to do our first activity. So I'm going to need a little help from someone. This activity, from several people actually. All right, we're going to try this. So here's what we're going to do. All right, Kara Cheeks, I need you to come up here. Yes, come on up. Christina Brown, I need you to come up here. All right, I need you to go over there with that. Okay, over there. All right, I need you to stand right over there with South. Okay, yeah. You're going, okay, watch this. Christina, I need you to go west. Which way are you going to go? Hey! Ladies and gentlemen, that is victory for that young lady right there. All right, Zach Brown, come on up here, and you're going to be right here, okay? So, I need everybody to get up out of your chairs, okay? Get up out of your chairs. Now, this is, where were you born? Were you born in the north, south, east, or west? If you're born in Texas, we're going to say south, okay? So, north, south, east, or west. Where were you born? Go to that area.
In the middle.
Okay. Hey, if you're north of the Mason-Dixon line, you're north. So if you're Kansas City or, what did you say, Fred? Kansas, you're over in the north. You're a Yankee. Get over there. All right. All right. Now, just find one person and introduce yourself. Get to know somebody you don't know, all right, in your area. You're the only west?
East.
Oh, east. You're the only east?
From Hong Kong.
Well, okay. All right. Everybody else keep going. Okay, everybody else in these three areas, and I want to talk to my south, okay? How many of you were born in Texas? All right, now, Texas, I want you guys to do this. Who was born in East Texas? All right, East Texas. All right, we got two. You guys come, you don't even have to do this. Go introduce yourself to each other right back there. All right, South Texas. Who's South Texas? All right, come on up here, Nicole. South Texas. Wow. Go back to Houston, girl, I guess. I don't know what to tell you about that. Hang on, all right. How about Central Texas if you were born in this area? Central? All right, Central. Here you go. Go right here in the center for Central. The rest of you keep introducing yourself to somebody else. Speed introductions. All right. North Texas. North Texas. If you're Dallas, Fort Worth, you should be in North Texas. Any West Texas people? West Texas, all right. Come introduce yourself to Derwin up here. All right, Derwin, go talk to Terry. And then East Texas. Where's East Texas?
DFW is North Texas.
DFW is, did I already say that? Okay, that's the reason I still have it. You guys have already done that. Now, if you're remaining, you are truly the South, so y'all talk to each other, all right? Terry, come get this. Go hold that. It's all right. You're okay. Hey, Corey, come on up here. I know you're at the top end of that, but you hold that for a second. All right, Nicole, you're going to do this one. Or you're not under 30, are you? Not anymore. There you go. And Nicole, here you go. And Brandon, there you go. Okay. All right. I'm going to need you guys to spread out for me, and then I'll go recognize you. You go back there, Terry. Hope is over here. Corey, you're right over there. Oh, one of you, 40, 50, come right here. Alicia. Okay. Now we're going to do this again. We're going to do this again. If you guys can bring me the red signs back. Now here's what we're going to do. Now then, we're going to divide up into age groups, okay? Because I just want you to kind of see, and this is a good thing for me to know. Okay, 60 plus, back here with Terry, all right? All right, 50 to 60 right here with Corey. 40 to 50s right here with Alicia. Mary, don't make me call you out of the 30 to 40 group, Mary. All right, and right over here, the under 30s, okay? All right, once again, I just want you guys to get to know some of your peeps, okay? Get to know your peeps. You can now ask them where they were born. See how this works? What a wonderful thing. Good job. Where's what? 60 plus right back there. Hey, you know what? If you couldn't figure that out, good luck, okay? I don't understand, okay? I mean, really, come on. All right, hey, Thank you guys. This is so encouraging to me to have all of you guys here. So it's wonderful to thank you guys for coming out. I really do appreciate it. I hope you get some great things out of this. You guys kind of got to know each other a little bit. All right, this group, y'all are going to help me, okay? Now, so you take that one and go right over there, Brandon. You take this one and go right here, and they'll clear out in just a second. You take that one and go right back in the back over there. Colin, right over here in that gap, right over there. Here we go. Here you go. Your Buddhism. Judaism. All right. And this is going to be fun for you because I'll be shocked if anybody comes. So I want you to stay right here. All right. Here's our next thing we're going to do. This is the last one. Okay. I have up some of the religions we're going to talk about. Now, here's what I want you to do. Let's get some separation. Go right over there. All right. So right over here we have Mormonism, not one that I teach in my class because it's a sect, S-E-C-T, of Christianity, actually, interestingly enough, but it is highly predominant in our culture. So we have Mormonism. Jehovah's Witnesses is the other group that I don't normally teach, but I'm adding that to what we're teaching. Islam, Hinduism, right over here with Colin. In the middle, Judaism, Buddhism, and Sikhism. I want you to go to the religion that you are most intrigued to learn something about. Go. Hold those up, everybody, so they can see where you're at. Blue signs, you can bring me that back. Okay, interestingly enough. Oh, you just came because it's your husband. I know you. All right. I see you. I see. All right.
I'm full for
My ring's going to be completely done.
All right. Yeah, this is also how you're getting your steps in today as well. All right. Okay. Are you happy with where you're at? Okay, you're happy with where you're at. Interesting. Okay. This is difficult. Y'all can't decide. Okay, here we go. All right. So this is very intriguing to me. This is really helpful to me. So this doesn't shock me at all. I began teaching this course at Tarrant County College in 2010, and that is one of the major religions that everybody's interested in. And why would we be interested in that specifically? It's Islam. What do you think? Yeah, a lot of conflict. 2001. My classes have always been full. I've been teaching it since 2010. Each semester I took like one semester off, and it's always been full. It's not because I'm great. It's because people are very intrigued with knowing what other people believe, because there's different ideologies and things that people don't quite understand. And so that's always been one of my most popular. I always do a little activity where I do this in the class, but I don't have them move around. But I might this year because this worked pretty good. All right, Mormonism. Okay, very prominent in our community. I am a people watcher. I know you would be shocked at that. I was on an airplane a couple years ago, and I was on my final flight back to DFW. And the two guys behind me, I couldn't help but overhear their conversation. And I was so excited about what they were talking about. And it went on for about 45 minutes, and they were talking about what they were learning and what they saw in the books they were reading and some in the Bible. And then all of a sudden, it turned to my ward. And because I'd done study of this, I knew exactly what they were talking about. I now knew exactly who they were. And so I was like, okay, are Mormons Christians? It's one of the reasons why Mormonism has changed their name, and you no longer see Mormonism, do you? You see Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Why? Because they're trying to mainstream more back to Christianity, certainly more so than where they were in the 70s and 80s when I was coming into contact with friends of mine. So very intriguing. Jehovah's Witnesses, group up here, Buddhism, Judaism. Now, okay, this is intriguing to me because tonight I was going to basically make a decision. One of these we're probably not going to be able to study, but it's not going to be this one, okay? Because Hinduism gives us a basis for a huge number of other world religions, including Buddhism. Where's Buddhism? Right there. Buddhism is a reform movement, and we'll talk about what that means, out of Hinduism. Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, most likely did not think he was starting a new religion. He thought he was starting a new pathway within Hinduism that was very similar to other pathways that were beginning to emerge in the 5th and 6th centuries. Okay? So Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, which we'll talk about in just a second, Confucianism, Taoism, Shinto, all of these religions emerged in some way, shape, or form out of Hinduism. We call Hinduism, especially in our what we call cyclical religions, which we'll talk about in just a second, is the grandfather religion. Okay? So that's going to be interesting. Now, we have several people who are interested in Sikhism. Why are y'all interested in Sikhism?
It's the only one I have.
You didn't have a clue what it was, right? Okay. Didn't have a clue what it was. Now, it is a smaller religion. It comes out of Hinduism. We will mention it, but it's probably the one that's going to get left off the table. All right, go back to your seats. Thank you very much for helping us with that. All right, thank you. We'll just put them over here. Y'all can put, if you have these, if you'll just put them right back over here somewhere, we'll do that. All right. Now, let's get into what we're talking about tonight. Thank you. So tonight we're going to be looking at an overview of the religions we're going to talk about. So if we could go to Jesus and the Nations, religions we plan to study. Oh, Ashley's up there. All right. So, next slide, please. I have a clicker. We don't have it yet working. So by next week, I'm hoping that I can run this myself and that someone doesn't have to try to follow me. Of all the people who speak here at EVC, those who run the PowerPoints will tell you I am the hardest one to follow. I know. It's okay. I'm comfortable with that. My 9 o'clock message is probably not going to be the same as my 11 o'clock message. So you might as well come to both because you never know what you're going to get, okay? Because I'm flowing with where God's telling me to go. That doesn't mean I haven't prepared. It just means that sometimes I tell different illustrations based on the people that I see that are there. It's kind of weird and funky, and sometimes it works, and sometimes you may go, that's the reason we can't follow you. Okay, I get it. All right, now you know. All right, but here are the religions we're planning to study. Those that we come in contact with. Again, Judaism, we're going to study. I'm going to provide something that I love to do. I tell my students when I do it, most people in churches don't get what you're getting ready to get, and it doesn't impress them at all, okay? But it is something significant. I'm going to do a biblical timeline that gives us from creation all the way up in Judaism up until the date 444, which is a date I love, and that is when Nehemiah rebuilds the wall of Jerusalem, okay, which is shortly after Ezra and a few others, many others, rebuild the temple, which is them coming out of exile. So we're going to do a timeline that's going to show not only what books of the Bible were written, when certain biblical characters, when they got on the scene. So on one fell swoop, what we're going to try to do is show you a biblical timeline of the whole Old Testament. Okay, so I'm very excited about giving that to you. It's something fun, but it's also, I think, going to help you bring to life your reading of the Old Testament, because I don't know if you've realized this or not, but the Bible is not in chronological order. Have you figured that out yet? If not, there's your first thing you learned tonight, all right? So it's not presented in chronological order. It was written in chronological order, and some of you are going to get that a little bit later tonight, okay? But it was written in chronological order. They still haven't gotten it, have they? Okay, never mind. All right. My highbrow humor is wasted upon me. Okay, well, here we go. Islam, we're gonna dive into more so of any religion, the one that we need to understand, because there are 2.5 billion Christians, and there's 1.8 or 1.9 billion Muslims, and we're not growing as fast as they are. Now, that may not make a whole lot of difference for those that are 50 and above in the room, but for those of you that are 30 and below and your kids are coming up, you need to know what Islam is teaching. You need to know what Islam in our community is likely teaching, that is often a very different form that is being taught elsewhere. We're going to talk about why. What is going on with that as in some of those reasons. Judaism, Islam, and Christianity are all known as people of the book. And the book kind of is the Bible. Certainly Judaism and Christianity are following the same understanding, but did you know that Islam was developed 450 years after Christianity, thousands of years after Judaism, and yet in its much later development, it's developed likely because Muhammad was coming into contact with Christians, Jews, and Zoroastrians. And I would love to teach you Zoroastrianism, but there's so few, there's less than 1 million Zoroastrians in the world, but it highly influenced some of the teaching of Islam because it was very prevalent in Persia when Muhammad was running a caravan of camels, basically a trucking industry. That's essentially what he was doing. He was taking a trucking industry over to the major cities of the world, which were developed around Judaism, Christianity, and Zoroastrianism. So it's not, that's the reason we see so many of these religions reflected in Islam. So we'll look at that. I'm not going to do this with each of them. Hinduism, very, very interesting. Grandfather religion. Buddhism. Again, Buddhism, especially in its atheistic form, is going to teach us a lot about humanity. Now I want to stop and I want to tell you something that I fully believe. I believe that there is some truth in these other religions. Do not burn me at the stake that I'm a heretic, okay? But it's little t truth. The big T truth is Jesus Christ. I will not divert from who he is, that Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life, and no man comes to the Father but through me. That does not make all religions in all ways equal. I do not believe that. It will not be taught in this course. We are not studying these other religions to find other ways. I don't believe any of these other ways lead us to eternal truth. But there's some little t truths within this. And I find several of those within Buddhism itself because some of the ideas are very intriguing because they have similarities to the ideas of Jesus. Now, Buddhism says that Jesus visited East Asia and was taught by Buddhist monks. I don't find that in Scripture, okay? And I don't find that in the timeline of Jesus. It's not possible within the timeline of Jesus as well. But a lot of intriguing things as we'll look into Buddhism. We likely will scratch Sikhism, largely because I took 3 dates off our calendar. I just couldn't cover all of them. We would not be able to deal with the things that we really want to deal with some of these other religions. But I'm happy to give you information about Sikhism or answer any questions that you may have. Mormonism and Judaism, or Jehovah's Witnesses. All right, let's go to the next thing. All right, now here's what I want us to begin to talk about is just why in the world should we study religion? So this is kind of what we're going to deal with tonight. Is why is this important? It's important, and it used to be covered on almost all college campuses. It's now offered on many, many different college campuses, and it's usually in the humanities or in the philosophy sections. But I don't know if you know it or not, but Harvard, Princeton, Yale, all the Ivy League schools were begun as Christian institutions. They were all actually institutions to turn out a particular group of people that were very highly valued at that particular time, and that's preachers, okay? Harvard, Yale, Princeton, all the Ivy League schools were started to create ministers and pastors to go out in this new world. That's not what we see today in many of those institutions. But what we see in this is, why should we study religion? So first of all, religion is a window into human thinking, feeling, fears, assurances, and actions, okay? When we begin to talk about the things that we're afraid of, the things that bother us, the things that bring us assurance, the things that cause us to want to have action, to do certain things, we are getting to the heart of what really makes us tick. And religion helps us to understand that. Second thing, religion is a window into the history of humankind. Every war, in some way, shape, or form, has likely had some religious connotation. So I don't know about you, but if I see the conflicts of all humanity somehow tying into religion, I might ought to know something about what has brought so much conflict to groups of people. But it's the history of humankind. You can't separate an understanding of religion from understanding what makes people tick and what goes into particular histories of people. Number 3, religion is a window into the literature of humankind. The most bought and sold book in the world is the what? It's the Bible. It is the majority of literature, and if I could take you into the world of what's called textual criticism, of groups of people who've made their lives and study of looking at the Bible, at the things that they like and the things that they dislike about it, it has created whole new fields of study. But the bottom line is, the focus of the study is the Bible and the history of humanity. Second most sold book in the world is the Quran. The Quran is the number 2 book. These religious histories or religious understandings or books are the 2 most sold books in all the world. Do you think we ought to be studying that? Do you think that college students coming into an understanding might want to have an understanding of the most bought and sold literature in all the world? I think they should. Religion is also next a window into the relationships among human beings. If you watch any documentary about the Aztecs, the Mayans, the great civilizations of our world, they have something to do with religion. Humanity has grown and chosen to move near other people who hold the same religion. This is one of the reasons why a little issue called Judophobia and movement of the Jews around the continent that we have seen, and the opportunities for people like Hitler, Haman of the Old Testament to try to target Judaism, is because Jews like to live around other Jews. The things they wear make them very definitive that they're Jewish. They love the heritage of Judaism. And when you're a different people group, you may not like the fact that somebody likes to be singled out, that they're a particular people group. But if you look in our area, never forget, I went to Marissa and Chad Colburn's house. We, at one point in time, several years ago, about 12 years ago, we did backyard Bible clubs. And I worked at their house. And we went to around their neighborhood, and I could not believe, and they live up near I-35 in Basswood. The number of Hindus, Pakistanis that were in that neighborhood, I could not believe. Why? Because they find pockets and want to move in close to one another because of cultural heritage. If you go to Houston, you have whole sections of people who are different ethnicities because they want to live within certain ethnicities, and the religions of those ethnicities tend to follow in those places. Okay, so very intriguing. It's the relationships among human beings. Religion in many cultures is a matter of extreme importance. Indonesia is the most Muslim nation in the world. It's 98% Muslim. But when you think of Indonesia, a Pacific or quasi-South Pacific island, you wouldn't necessarily think it's Islamic. But it is. It's the most Islamic by percentage nation in all of the world. And so what do we see? Cultures, if you don't understand Islam, you're not going to understand Indonesian culture. If you don't understand Buddhist culture, you're going to go to Vietnam, of which I've traveled and loved, a particular country before I had Honduras. And by the way, these are my great friends. They're going to be with us all week from Honduras. Yesenia and Leovardo, would you guys stand? Stand. So this is the couple 12 years ago that we met. They are our person of peace. Go to Luke chapter 10 if you want to know what that means. And God has been using this couple as we have worked in Honduras, and I am so glad to have them with us. They're going to be with us during Serverpalooza. And now our Bea, would you stand, please? This young lady is one of my favorites in all the world. She's another daughter of mine, but she was 6 years old when I first started going to Honduras, and she's almost 20 now, and I've got to watch her grow up. She's now one of our top translators that we use every time we're there, and so I'm so excited to have them with us. So give them an EVC welcome today. But before my life really took a bend to being in Honduras, when I was at my previous church for 20 years, Vietnam was my focus. My doctoral dissertation is in students from Vietnam who came to the United States on a J1 or F1 visa and what their experience was in higher education. And that was a narrow topic. And that was my doctoral dissertation as I studied Vietnamese exchange students here in the United States. But Vietnam, if you don't understand Confucianism, Taoism, and Chinese influence, and specifically Buddhism, you're going to not quite get the culture in Vietnam. And here's the thing. If you go to Asia today and you don't understand the process of reincarnation, it totally changes the way someone thinks. It totally changes how someone views their family. When you believe in reincarnation and that you will come back in another life form, how you treat your grandparents makes a big difference, because they're going to get there before you do. And if you don't treat them right in this life, you're going to have some heck to pay in the next. But I'm serious. If you don't get that, it's what we call the Asian mindset. If you don't understand reincarnation and how this cycle works and what the release of that cycle is, which is what we first understand when we look at Hinduism, you're not going to understand that culture and therefore that people group. If you're in international business, you should study world religion, because it's going to help you understand how other people think in this process. And then finally, religion is a part of culture and history, and is therefore a matter that needs understanding and clarification. You cannot remove people from what they believe about God. Of the now over 8 billion people on our planet, there's less than 500,000 or so that could truly be called atheistic. Now that's funky to us, and let me tell you why, because you're in the United States. But the rest of the world, atheism is not as gravitated to as it is seemingly in the West. And if you get an atheist alone and you drive down to what they really think, they're one huge suffering or one huge issue in their life from really questioning whether they're truly atheistic or not. If you've not watched the movie, C.S. Lewis, The Reluctant Convert, I would encourage you to watch it. Because C.S. Lewis was a devout atheist that came to faith in Christ through reason. And so it's just a phenomenal story, phenomenal understanding. If you love reading C.S. Lewis like I do, I have to read it every paragraph about 4 times so that I can actually understand what he's saying. But it's just phenomenal in that way. All right, let's go to the definition of religion. I'm going to go over my 15 minutes for a second, all right, and we're going to come back to an activity. We have a question. It is C.S. Lewis, The Reluctant Convert. And somebody can look that up and see if that's actually accurate. That's what I remember it to be. And it's either on Netflix or Amazon, and I don't remember which. What is it?
I got you.
What is it? Hope.
I got it.
Oh,
C.S.
Lewis, The Reluctant Convert. Yes. The most reluctant convert.
He is correct.
All right, C.S. Lewis, The Most Reluctant Convert. There you go.
Apple TV, YouTube, Google Play, TV.
All right, I watched it on Amazon Prime, so there you go. You can watch it if you want. All right, very, very good. And especially to look at the atheistic mind and really to kind of understand the development of what took place in someone who was fully atheistic as he moved, not first to Christianity, he moved first to a belief that there was a God, but it wasn't Jesus. And then finally to say it absolutely was Jesus. And he is attributed with saying this, but in the movie, it was actually one of his buddies, who wrote the trilogy, Tolkien. I don't think it was Tolkien, it was his other buddy. But he said, Jesus is either Lord, liar, or lunatic. He's either a lunatic who thought he was God but really wasn't. He was a liar who knew he wasn't God but told everyone he was. And if he was not either of those two, he is Lord, who is God. And so I'm giving a shameless plug for a movie that's out there. All right. Jennifer Miller fell asleep while I watched C.S. Lewis, The Most Reluctant Convert. And you can go home and tell her that. All right, there you go. All right, let's look at the definition of religion and what this looks like. First of all, the word religion derived from the Latin, which is religio, which means fear, respect, or awe. Now, this audience understands that. I really have to go to great leaps to help my students understand the difference of fear, to fear, okay? There's a difference, okay? Fear, is I don't want to go into this. I'm deathly afraid. A spider of whom I am 4,000 times the size is on the floor, and yet I am afraid of it. That is irrational, okay? But we do it. The things that we're afraid of. I could tell you stories, but I don't have time to tell my stories. I wish I could tell you my stories, but I don't have time. All right. But the fear that we're talking about is that you have an extreme awe of someone. I mention it like this. Who loves basketball or college basketball, professional basketball? Okay. This illustration is lost to all of you. Okay, never mind. Michael Jordan walked in the room, I would be, dude, okay? I'm at Disney World with my daughters. We're getting ready for the Tinkerbell to slide down the line at the end of the night fireworks show. And I cross the street, and Kobe Bryant has his daughter, who passed away, his oldest daughter, on his shoulders. And I was like, dude, it's Kobe Bryant. He's not as tall as I thought he was. No. I bet I could take, no. But I was in awe all of a sudden, okay? I don't get in awe of a lot of people. Incredible basketball players, I'm like, dude, okay? If your favorite president of history, we're not gonna talk recent history, we're just gonna go history. If mine would be Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt walked in the room, I'd be like, dude, could we just sit down and could I have an hour with, all right? But now we're talking about the God of the universe. So religion, the word religio, means that you have respect for someone who has a physical presence that you just do not comprehend. That's where the word religion actually comes from. Religion is a set of beliefs having to do with a supernatural reality, usually involving some kind of moral system. It is a set of beliefs. Now, what do we talk about at EVC? It's not about religion, it's about, I hope you guys get this, it's about relationship. You know, I get kids all the time who go, yeah, I've been hurt by the church, but this, all these different things. The religion is just for the birds. I go, you're not kidding. It is. But I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about having a relationship with the creator of the universe. That's a very different thing. It's a very different idea. But however, in this aspect of what we're talking about, other religions and our own, it's a set of beliefs that usually talks about a supernatural reality, but it has some moral system. What am I talking about with that? This moral system gives us a way to understand our activity as compared to somebody else's activity. This is what we call a standard, okay? There is a standard. A standard is necessary. Do you guys, are you aware of how we know what a yard is? Does anybody know where we get the word yard from? No one knows? You don't watch or listen to Way with Words on PBS like I do to figure out? I love that show. To figure out why did my father always say, Dad, how are you doing? Well, I'm fair to Midland. Okay? I thought it was Midland, Texas. It's not. It's cotton. Cotton had a grade, and the grade was either fair or Midland. And he would say, I'm fair to Midland. Y'all didn't know. Did y'all know that? Okay, you knew that one. All right. We get the word yard because of an English king who the distance from the tip of his finger to his nose was our current understanding of length, 36 inches. That's okay. That's going to be the coolest thing some of y'all learned tonight, all right? And I kid you not, several years ago, I was trying to measure a screen that was hanging, and I went up to it, and I saw where it fit on the bridge of my nose, and then I came back, and I had a teenager, actually he wasn't a teenager, he was about 21. I keep looking at Hope over here. He thought I was the dumbest person ever. Okay, I don't know about you. His name was Ben. I said, Ben, I don't understand. I don't know about you, but this length on my body doesn't change. So if I get this length and I go somewhere and then measure that length, then I know where the screen is. He was just like, dude. You know why we call it common sense? Because it ain't common, okay? All right, some of you, okay. I digress. I'm going into stories again, aren't I? All right, okay, here we go. But it's some moral system. That's where I was going with that. It's a standard. A yard is a standard. It's a standard so that we know what distance actually is. When people are measuring distance, they go, we got to know some measurement to be able to equate that distance to a different distance. And so this whole idea of this moral standard is simply this. Religion is a way that teaches us what's right and what's wrong. Do you guys like living with standards? Do you love all your standards? No, y'all don't. Do you love your tax brackets? No, you don't like those standards, do you? Have you ever thought about what life would be like if there weren't standards? Especially in the college age right now, it's kind of changing. But when it was millennials, because I taught them through that. Sorry, my millennials in the room. But they didn't like to be labeled. They thought that rules were bad, all these things. I said, let me tell you, when you go out of this place today, you are banking your whole life on a rule that somebody on the other side of that yellow line is going to observe that the yellow line 18 inches apart is all you are from 50 miles an hour in one direction to 50 miles an hour in the other direction. And if you've ever seen the crash test dummies, when those things hit at 50 miles an hour, it's unbelievable the amount of damage. You want to tell me that you don't like a standard? We all like standards when it's meaning about our life. But religions are about a moral system, a way that we live our lives. In every one of these religions, one of the things that we will look at, and some of them, it's very hard to find, how do you determine when something is wrong and something is right? We take what do we use to determine what's right and what's wrong? The Bible, some would say the 10 Commandments. And by the way, when we get into Judaism, we'll realize there's not just 10 commandments. There's actually 365 positive commandments. There are a whole lot of other negative commandments. And there are some commandments that are exactly what Linda Sharp used with Shauna Salzito. You know what that is? You do it because I told you to do it. Those, we're going to learn in Judaism, those are called chikum. Chikum is, we don't know why God told us to do it, but he had a reason, and so we just go by it, what he said. Okay, so what am I saying? These are all standards. So this point, I think, is huge. It involves some kind of moral system to help us understand what's right and what's wrong. Now, we take it for granted in a Judeo-Christian ethic of where we get our right and wrong. But did you know that the rest of the world doesn't flow off your Judeo-Christian standard? And the fact is, in the Asian mindset, you know what the key understanding of their standard is? My family. I will lie to your face if it protects my family. I have no sense or care for whether it's right or wrong, but if it affects my family, I'm going to tell you whatever you want to hear. And I will give you an example when we get into, well, we're not going to get into that, so let me give you the example now. In Vietnam, Ford Motor Company came into a communistic country, Vietnam, and said, we want to build a plant here. Vietnam said, great, please build your plant. They said, we want to purchase the land. They said, oh no, we don't, we're communistic, we don't purchase land, but we'll lease it to you. And so they leased Ford Motor Company the land to build their plant. And a couple of years later, the Vietnamese government said, oh, by the way, that plant that you built, thank you, we're going to take that back. Now that worked a grand total of once, all right? And everybody figured it out. But what was it saying? It was saying from our Buddhist, Confucian, Taoist mindset, our family is first. By the way, Trump did not say America first. The whole Asian mindset is we're first. What China says is it's about us. We do not care about the rest of the world. And we go, how can you not care about the rest of the world? Why are you not altruistic? Because their moral system is not based on Jesus Christ. It's based on their religious ideals. So there's no moral system that's like your moral system. So that's the reason it's so interesting to me that we as Christians expect other people to observe our morality system when they don't have the same faith basis that we do. Okay? And that's going to be very important as we look at these religions in this. All right. Religion usually involves rituals and activities that guide life through the human experience. And we call this a rite of passage. A rite of passage. My favorite lecture that I get to do, I'm not going to get to do because we don't have time, but I'm going to work it in at different points. And that is feature basic terms in religion that we use. And rites of passage is one of my favorite. We all have rites of passage. What are some rites of passage to our American system? You know you've arrived to adulthood when? Driver's license, okay? 16 for some. In Arkansas, Mississippi, 14. All right, we're driving young. We're driving on a farm over there, all right? So driver's license. What else? What, graduation, okay? Marriage, another major rite of passage. Voting. What, voting? 21, age to drink. Go knock yourself out, all right, way to go. All right, so these are all American rites of passage. Do you know what a major rite of passage is we haven't mentioned? That'd be death, okay? Death is a rite of passage. There are certain things that come at certain ages. Hispanic culture, quinceañera, the age of 15 is a huge rite of passage. Well, these rites of passage, what's a Christian rite of passage? Baptism. What's the other major one? Communion, confirmation. These are rites of passage within the Christian understanding. Every religion has rites of passage. What's a rite of passage in Judaism? Bar mitzvah for a boy, because bar is son of mitzvah. Mitzvah is commandment. Bar mitzvah is the son of the commandment. Bat mitzvah is for a girl, daughter of the commandment. Bar mitzvah, age 13 for males. Bat mitzvah, age 12. Because we all know girls are more mature than dudes, okay? All right, so there you go. The ladies are always more mature. But rites of passage, what moves us from one place to the next? Every one of our religions has some sense of a rite of passage, and so we'll talk about those as we go through. Religion usually involves some claim to involvement. What's our claim to involvement in Christianity? Well, at EVC, we have a lot of them. Our claim to, what did I just tell you tonight? That if you really want to get to know people, you should be in a life group. It's a claim to involvement. Church attendance. Do you tithe? These are all involvement. Ways that we would characterize how involved are you? Well, that's what it is in Christianity, but there's all kinds of things in other religions, the things that demand or tell us whether you're faithful or not. That's what that actually means. Religion usually incorporates some form of rituals of worship and dedication. Rites of passage always focuses on the idea of ritual. Okay? What are our rituals? Things that we do. Now think of this with rituals. Things we do over and over and over and over and over again. What? Praise and worship. Okay, that's a ritual we do in our services. Prayer is another ritual that we do. What? Communion. We do it regularly. Now, we're going to stop with communion because I want to talk about it's a ritual that becomes a rite of passage. Okay? Now, Nicole, you started this, so I'm going to help you. You're going to finish it. Why do we do communion?
To show the blood and the love of Christ.
Okay? But why do we do communion, Nicole?
We're told to.
We're told to, but why do we do communion, Richard? To remember what? What Jesus did. Okay, a ritual becomes a rite of passage for a younger person, but it is actually a reenactment of what our Lord did. So communion is a reenactment of a ritual, of something Christ did. So it's not a reenactment of a ritual. It's a reenaction of something Christ did that has become ritualistic to us because he told us to, every time you do this, remember me. Islam has a major reenactment. It's called the Hajj. The Hajj that every good Muslim should do once in their lifetime is to start at Mecca, the mosque in Mecca, to go to the mosque at Medina, and then come back to Mecca, is reenacting what Muhammad did as he was kicked out of Mecca, his home, was forced to flee to Medina and had to fight his way against the, here's the word, infidel, which actually meant other Arab tribes at that time, not necessarily Christians and Jews. But if you don't understand that, you understand that radical groups have made that Christians and Jews, which in some ways Muhammad had to deal with that. But at the time when Muhammad was doing it, he was fighting other polytheistic tribes trying to get back to his homeland of Mecca. And that Hajj that every good Muslim is to do is a ritual, which is a reenactment of what Muhammad did. And so now there is an opportunity to talk to a Muslim about something that they do, and then have the opportunity to talk about something that you do that is a reenactment of what Christ did. Are you seeing the connections of how this isn't beating somebody over the head with what your belief is, but why do you do the Hajj? Many of them don't know. But after this course, you're going to know why they do the Hajj. Why do you do the Hajj? I want you to know what I believe is important for me to do because of what Christ did. And you start with, he served, he washed the feet of the disciples. Because Muhammad was not an individual that typically would serve others. But we show the differences between Muhammad and Christ because of the rituals that they actually experience. All right, last thing here is religion often develops some kind of leadership or hierarchy of priests, bishops, pastors, popes, shaman, prophets, and other practitioners. Now, this is very intriguing. Native American religion, which we won't study, but I'll use the example of it here. Native American religion doesn't have a figure within it that is seen to be a spiritual leader. Now, they might have a medicine person that does, but they're not seen as a spiritual leader. The spiritual leader in Native American religion is the community. Okay? The community is the spiritual leader. Why would they not have a person? Well, what did Native American tribes do? They what?
Worship nature.
They worship nature, yes. But what, did they stay in one place? Why did they not stay in one place? They were hunters and gatherers. And so you will often see hierarchy develop when people have buildings. Native American culture didn't have religious buildings, because what do you have to have when you have a building? You have to have somebody to turn the air on. You got to have somebody to set up the chairs. You got to have somebody to make sure that the tables are out, that things are done. You usually see a development of hierarchy when you begin to take care of certain things, which includes the people. So religion tends to develop some type of hierarchical structure based on the fact that you need people to run things and know how to do things. It was so hilarious. One of the first times we moved into this facility, we had a men's event. And we were trying to get the chairs. We didn't have a chair setup crew like we do now, which actually means Zach Brown. Zach Brown is, and by the way, he's done a phenomenal job, because these chairs are so straight on Sunday morning. It's just like, I walk in and I go, oh, thank you, God, for Zach Brown. But I remember the men were here, but nobody knew where things were going to be set up. And I'm seeing this, and it just like, people are going, okay, we set up chairs. And I got up here and I went, hang on. All right. The chairs need to be one chair length apart. And we need to start the line here. And we need the aisle to go back this way. Because if not, it was never going to get done in any type of timely manner, okay? So this is one of the reasons that we see religions often develop this, is because there's got to be a sense of the ability to be able to run some things, to give some order, to create some of that. Now, let's take a break for just a second. Now, I want you to grab a note card that's in the center of your table. All right, on the note card, go to the ruled section. That's the one that has lines, okay? I may use words that no one understands. What's the ruled side? I don't know. All right, go to the rules section. Okay, what I want you to do, give me 3 numbers, 1, 2, 3, and tell me 3 things about you. Anything on the first 2, I don't care what it is, who you're married to, what you like. Number 3, I want to know, why did you sign up to take this course? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Tell me 2 things about you that I probably don't know. And number 3 is, why'd you take this course? So take just a moment to do that. Am I moving enough for you, Dave? Are you having fun? Am I keeping you awake back there? Okay, that's good. The camera people also don't like it when I speak, because I move all the time. Amen. Are you seeing a theme here? People don't like it when I speak. No, I'm teasing. You people do. You signed up for this course. All right, so I found my people. Okay. All right, now then, all I need you to do, flip it over to the blank side once you're finished. Everybody done that? This is very important. Take the name tag you wrote and stick it onto the index card. All right, we're going to use that in just a second. If you didn't do a name tag, now's the time to get a name tag and put your name on it, all right? Now, here's what we're going to use. In just a few minutes, when we conclude tonight, we're going to go right here. Christina, do you have your camera? It will be so much better. Would you help me in just a few minutes? Would you go ahead and grab that? We're going to take your picture, and here's the deal. By next week, to the best of my ability, I'm going to know every person's name in here, and this is the way I'm going to do it, okay? Your names are very important to me, and I want to be able to know that, but that to also help, I'm a spatial memorization person. I've told some of you this on Sunday mornings. When you move seats, I know. In church on Sunday, I know where you typically sit because I shake your hand almost every Sunday, and I know spatially where you should be, okay? Now, please don't put your name on a pew because that goes against everything that we teach around here, but just spatially, it helps me to know that. So what I'm going to ask you is after next week, as I'm beginning to make sure I know everybody's name, I need you to sit in kind of the same place, okay? That will help me. Now, I will get better at it to the point where by the end of this time, I'm going to know everybody's name, and then on Sundays I can start doing that. But I actually have a very high capacity for names. It takes me one or two instances to get it ingrained, and then I will usually forever know it. However, I'm finding that as I do this with my classes, I know 30 of them for a semester, but when I learn the next 30, I drop the last 30 because my brain just can't. But you guys are different. Okay, so that's going to help me. So put that away. But we're going to use that in a few minutes. So Christina, wherever you see, we're going to do that. All right, we're going to quickly go on because I've taken way too much time in doing these activities. We're going to hit some information, but I specifically want to hit this. We're going to look at, this is what we call a schema. And a schema is just a skeleton, okay? So imagine a skeleton of bones up here. So we want to organize what we're going to talk about. We can organize it in a number of ways. We're going to organize this in the actual religions, and I've already told you what are some things we're going to study about each religion. We're going to study what? Number one? Rites of passage, yes. We're going to study the founders, okay? What else are we going to study? The belief systems. And the third thing we're going to study is holidays. Okay, so I've already told you kind of what our schema is going to be. We're going to organize the course kind of in that way so that you can know when it gets to the holidays, we're almost done with this religion, okay? So you'll have great joy about that. All right, but there's other ways that we could organize the course, okay? So this is one that I really like, and I think it's a great thing for us to understand. So there are 4 types of religious sections we could talk about. One is atheistic and secular. Another is monotheistic. Another is pantheistic. And another is polytheistic, okay? So the first one is atheistic. Say that with me on 3. 1, 2, 3. Atheistic. So we think we know what that is. We're going to see about it in a second. The second one is monotheistic. Say that with me. That's what we are, and we'll figure out that in just a second. The third one is pantheistic. Say that with me. Pantheistic, all right. And then the final one is polytheistic. Say that. Okay, atheistic, monotheistic, pantheistic, polytheistic. These are ways that we could talk about these religions. So let's talk about each one of those. The first one is atheistic. Comes from the Greek word atheos, okay? Theos meaning, anybody want to take a stab? God. Theos is God. Theos. Means no. Let me help you understand this in the Greek language. Amusement park. Anybody know what the word muse means? Close. Think. Muse means to think. If you go to an amusement park, it's a place where you do not think. It's a place of fun, okay? If I don't have to think, that's fun. Now, it's horrible that we've created these places. Places where you don't have to think, but nevertheless, that gives you the understanding of the words. Theos is, there's a belief that there is no God. Okay, what are some characteristics of this? It includes humanism, scientism, where everything is based upon science, materialism, Marxism, from where we get communism, and some groups of Buddhists. Remember, I said there's two forms. One is atheistic. It's called Theravada. You can write it down now, but we'll study it later. Okay, Theravada. No, there is no sense of God. No need for God. There is no God. No one is in charge at all. Okay, a statement from that. Since there's no God, the universe is self-sustaining. Miracles are impossible. And there's an emphasis on material matters and human effort. But I believe atheism is a religion. All religions have something that they believe of God or a belief of self in the center. Who is the God for the atheist? Themselves. Atheism holds that I am the center of the universe. That's where we get the term relativism. It's relative. What that means is it's different for you because you're sitting at this table than it is. Your experience of what you're getting tonight is different for you than it is for you because it's relative only to where you're sitting. Okay? You're not getting the same material. You're not having the same experience because it's relative only to you. There's no sense of this, yeah, but we're going through a common experience. No, but my outcome and your outcome could be totally different, and that's okay. That's where atheism goes in this. Now, I would love to go deeper in that. And my friend here, Miss Guzman, can go much deeper than I can on some of these things. We've been talking about Abby doing a deal on apologetics. And Abby's done a lot of deeper study in this idea of apologetics and knowing to confront the world of atheism. And Abby's going, you don't know what I've studied. You don't know what I'm doing. All right. But atheism is close to agnosticism, but agnosticism is not the same. Agnosticism is another Greek word. Ag, or gnosis. Gnosis. So we know means what? No. Gnosis is knowledge. Okay? There is no knowledge. In other words, what an agnostic says is not that there is no God necessarily, but I cannot know whether there's a God or not. Because an agnostic bases many of their thoughts on the same thing that atheists base their thoughts on, which is, if I can't see it, smell it, touch it, it doesn't exist. What about the wind? I can't see it. Sometimes I can smell it. If I'm in Lubbock, I can smell the wind. Do you understand what I'm saying? All right? But, so everything is based on materialism, what I see, what my senses experience, and there's nothing outside of me. This is where I would love to talk about transcendence, but I don't have time to do it. But essentially what transcendence is imagine a box. I did a message that I did this one time, but I don't even know where that message is or if it's available. But transcendence means that for most religions that we're going to study, their view of God is in the box. In the box is all matter, energy, and effort. That God is controlled in many of these religions by what's in the box, matter, energy, and effort. We hold that God is transcendent. He is outside the box. He is not managed by what's in the box. Why is God not managed by what's in the box? He created the box. And so gravity, God doesn't have to deal with gravity. Time, effort, energy expended, those things don't bind God. in our view because we see God as a transcendent God outside the box. All right, so that's atheism or secularism. So some other words, skepticism is another word that goes with this particular view of thought. A skeptic says you should question the reliability of sense perception, as it even can be deceptive. You can't even trust your senses because you're skeptic. Now it's interesting. I am a very skeptical person and yet a person of faith. My family talks about ghosts and ghost stories that they've experienced and other things, and I go, y'all are full of bunk. I don't know the internet. Until I was reading in the Gospels, and Jesus mentions ghosts. And I'm like, dude, I gotta believe it now. What am I doing? So, okay, we'll find that. We'll go back to that later. But anyway, I'm a skeptical person because, I've been around this world a few times, so I understand some of these things. All right, let's go quickly. The next one, monotheistic. For monotheos, theos meaning, mono meaning one, a belief in one God. What groups believe in one God? Islam, I can point because see, I'm spatial. That's where Islam was a while ago. Islam, Judaism, Christianity, Zoroastrianism, and Baha'i, which we won't even get close to looking at that. But those five are monotheistic, a belief in one single deity. There are some forms of Hinduism that sometimes could be considered, not in my opinion, but by some other scholars, that there are parts of Hinduism that seem monotheistic, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. So some Hindu statements tend towards monotheism, but more are with this word, henotheistic. So this is a good vocabulary word. That's a henotheist is that you worship one God, but you do not deny the existence of others. So you worship God, but you don't deny that there are other gods, okay? This leads to what we call exclusivism and non-exclusivism. Exclusivism simply says there is one God and only one God. Is the God of Islam the same God of Christianity? Well, if you do not believe it, which I don't believe the God of Islam is the same God of Christianity. Is the God of Islam real? I would say no, I am not a henotheist. But a henotheist says there is a God that I worship, but there are also other gods. So that's what henotheism means. Let's go to the next category. Pantheistic. We won't get into a lot of these, but nevertheless, pantheism. Pan means all. So theos, God, pantheists believe everything is God. You, Tracy, are God. I am God. This table is God. Mormonism has a significant understanding of pantheism in the fact that we can all be gods. One of the major tenets of Mormonism is we will one day, those who attribute to a certain level, will all be gods of our own particular planets. Okay? So, once again, is it mainstream taught out there? No, but that's one of the reasons why. We need to understand what some of these things hold and mean. Pantheism is seen in some kinds of Buddhism, Hinduism, and other particular sectarian groups. All right, there are some things with that. You'll get these notes, so we'll make sure that you get those. All right, let's go to the last one, polytheistic. Theos. Don't let me lose you. Here we go. We're almost done. Theos is poly, many, multiple gods. Hinduism, the best example of this, there are millions of deities. Okay, millions of deities within Hinduism. Many finite deities exist, must be feared, worshiped, sought, and followed. Some see a unity among the gods. That's where Hinduism, there can sometimes be a view towards monotheism within Hinduism because they see a unity of the gods. We'll talk more about that. Hinduism, Taoism, Shinto, traditional religions. When we say traditional religions, by the way, that's Native American, African, Egyptian. These would be traditional type religions. All right. Final thing that we're really not gonna look at this, but I just wanna give you this. Some definitions of religion. We're gonna skip that whole group of slides. That's the same information, by the way, Ashley, as what I just gave. It's just all on one sheet, so it'll be on your notes as well. Some definitions of religion, because some of these I just love. But notice what kind of people these are. That's in the center category. Some are theologians, some are philosophers, some sociologists, anthropologists as well. Friedrich Schleiermacher is one of my favorite ones. By the way, if you say that correctly, you've spit on the person's head in front of you. But he is a theologian. I love his definition. The essence of religion is a feeling of absolute dependence. In other words, what Schleiermacher is simply saying is a holy other that's very different than me, of whom I am totally dependent upon, without whom I am nothing. That is Schleiermacher, theologian. James Fraser is a hugely important person in the field of what we call animistic thought, that everything you see has a soul and is part of something bigger than itself. Star Wars as a movie does animism a lot of favors, because it views everything as the force. There's a force of the universe. And so animism says everything has a soul and a force or an aura around it. If you've ever watched the movie Avatar, Avatar wonderfully depicts this idea of animism. The mother tree, and the beings take their tail and they plug it into the mother tree. That is animism at its almost finest, that there is something other, and I plug myself in and I lose my individuality into the aura of everything else. Didn't know your movies were doing all these things. We'll talk about that a little bit as we go along. But Fraser says in The Golden Bough, a book he wrote, religion is the propitiation of the conciliation of superior powers. Okay, don't you love that? All right. That is a horrible definition. Thank you very much. But what he means is this. Religion, our activity, is the payment, that's propitiation, the payment of how superior powers are quelled, so to speak, through our payment. What does that sound like? When I do something for a superior power in hopes that they'll like me, what might you give to a superior power? Gift, money, sacrifice. That's one of our terms. In other words, you sacrifice. Now here's the beauty of Christianity. Every other religion believes in sacrifice. And it's always from the human being to the deity. Only Christianity has the deity sacrificing for the human. And that's why Christianity flips all of these rules on its head. All right, I've left out common factors of religion. We're not going to go there tonight because I am out of time and I want to get your picture. All right, now, I tell all my students after this lecture, this is my least favorite lecture that I'll give. But it's a basis and a foundation of where we're going. And it's important to know that schema of how we're going to look at the course. It's also important to know those four characteristics of atheism, polytheism, pantheism, monotheism, and how we're going to hang the meat on the skeleton of this course. Okay, that's kind of what we're looking at as we go along. So as we get into religions specifically next week, we're gonna begin with Hinduism. Because next to Judaism, it is likely the oldest religion on the face of the earth that's been worshiped over time. So Hinduism and Judaism are very close in that.